On this episode of Hey Sparkplug, we're going to be talking about tips and tricks to get more comfortable being on camera. Hey, you, and welcome back to another episode of Hey Sparkplug. Last week, I was on talking about how to build confidence getting online to start doing lives and showing up on camera. And this week, I'm actually going to be talking about some tips and tricks that are more on like the techie side of things, of how to actually do some of the stuff so that when you get on camera, you know what you're doing. So one of the big parts, again, is like kind of getting comfortable with that idea of having to show up and represent your business. And many of us are the faces of our business. So if you started a business, at some point, you're going to have to actually step out from behind it. And regardless of whether you have a brand or you have a business where your name is on the front of it, like you're hung out your shingle and it says like Jen Ditchfield Co. on the front. It doesn't really matter which way you go about doing it, but it really matters at the end of it is that you need to represent your business live. And with the way that things have changed so much and we are no longer doing in-person events, hopefully that's starting to come back. We'll start seeing some of those probably in the late fall. I'm hoping that we can start doing a bit more of like the, getting in front of people in a real way. But the truth is most of us are here online and we're here to stay online. And it's just the way the businesses have pivoted. It's the way we built our businesses. And the space is not going to go away. So if you're in the space, you're thinking about being in the space, you're trying to be in the space, you have to know how to get comfortable being on camera. And it's the most intimidating thing when you first start out. Like it is absolutely intimidating. And I told the story last week about how I came from a background of like 20 years of doing public speaking, and I have a background in theater. And I thought I could just walk into my first live and I was like, I can do this. Like, this is no biggie. I've spoken in front of like audiences of hundreds, no, whatever, like it's just a camera lens. And I got on camera and I literally froze. Like, I was like, I don't know what to look at. I don't know what I'm saying. Where am I looking? What's the point of what I'm doing? I can see myself. This is creepy that I'm looking at myself. And I just absolutely flubbed it. Like it was the worst live I've ever done. And I kind of came out of that and I was like, all right, I need to figure this out. Like I have to master this. If this is something that I want to use in my business and I want my business to be successful, I need to figure out how to use this. So I started putting a system in place and I talked about that last week, but I've also outlined it in a free guide that you can actually just grab it and swipe the entire plan and incorporate it right into your own business. So I released a new guide called the Go Live Guide, and it's kind of your essentials on how to get comfortable being on camera, how to feel confident with what you're doing. It's full of tips and tricks like the do's and the don'ts, some of which I'm going to go over today, but also it includes a script. There's a script in there. It's a script that I use, and you can actually just swipe it and you can turn it into what you want for your own business. And I think it's really helpful. Like I kind of wish I had something like that when I first got going, where I'd be like, what am I supposed to say? And how am I supposed to walk my way through this? And what's the point? And how do I get comfortable selling on camera? Because we are selling ourselves every time we turn that camera on. So I walk through all of that and it's there for you. So go grab it and take a look at what's inside. And I think that it might be something that you'll find to be helpful as well. But some of the things I'm going to talk today about are more in the realm of, as I mentioned, technology and really understanding some of those, like the secrets behind how to show up and look good. Not what we're talking about, not what we're saying, not any of that stuff, but the actual, like if I put it on mute and I was just looking at you, I was like, wow, that looks great. So we're going to talk about some of that today. And it's not overly complicated. There are some things that are kind of like givens, right? Like lighting, and I'll chat about lighting. But then there's some other things that are not necessarily as obvious. And one of those things, and the first one I'm going to talk about, is where to look when you're on camera. And we have this inclination, all of us do it, everyone, I did it forever until I figured it out, is you look directly at yourself when you're talking on camera. So all of us are using our phones, we're holding the phones up, or we've got like, if you've got a ring light, you have a little mount, whatever you're doing, and you turn it on to go live, or you turn it on to record a video, whatever you're doing, and you look directly at yourself. And you're thinking, oh, this is great. I'm doing such a great job. I'm looking right in the eyes of my customer. It's fantastic. Until you start thinking about the fact that most of us don't actually hold our phones when we're watching a video in front of our eyes. We tend to hold it at chest level. So you're not actually looking your customers in the eyes. You're looking directly at their girls. So the first thing you need to know when you're getting on camera is look at the lens. Number one, never look at yourself when you're on camera. Look at the lens. So lift your eyes up and look directly in the lens. And that gives the impression that you're actually looking at your customers in their eyes, or your audience directly in the eyes. And that's the first thing. again, kind of resist some of those temptations you have again of being like, I'm going to look at myself and I'm going to watch myself, thinking that I'm actually connecting with the person on the other end, and you're not. So lift the eyes up, as I always like to say, eyes up, shoulders back, look directly at the lens. Make sure you're actually getting the eyesight and the eye line that you really want to have on camera, and it changes everything. Like it really does. If you record yourself looking directly at yourself on your phone, and then you do another one where you're looking at the lens, you'll be shocked at the difference. It's incredible how different it looks and how immediately more polished, more polished you look when you're live. The next thing I want to talk to you about is actually knowing how to frame yourself, which is another thing that we do a lot, is that we don't think about the framing of ourselves within our camera. And so we'll set the camera up and we'll push it back and we'll leave this really awkward like space over our heads. Like there's this giant space where it's just emptiness. And or you got some like weird thing hanging over your head, or it's kind of coming up from behind your head. Like this just looks awkward. And what happens is when you don't frame yourself properly on camera is you look small. So it takes away again from that polished professional look, and it makes you look kind of like you just don't even really want to be there. And I know most of us actually don't want to be there to begin with. And now it really looks that way when we don't actually show presence on the camera. So instead of setting up your camera and just like, getting in and hitting record and not thinking about how it actually should be framed, think about the framing first. Set your camera up, make sure that it's always like you're pretty much centered in the middle of your screen, and that it's getting the best parts of you. So you want your head in there, your shoulders, maybe a little bit of your chest, and definitely room for your hands to be seen. You don't want to be like directly in the lens and like really creepy close, but you want to be close. You don't actually want to be so far away that, again, it gives the impression that you are invisible on camera. Fill the frame. Don't leave other things, kind of around it. You are the center of the story. You need to be the center of the camera, and you need to be center of what people are watching. So make sure you're filling the frame. And then in keeping with this as well is thinking about your background. So your background is something that really ends up mattering when you're doing a lot of lives on camera. And if you ever watch any of my lives, you'll see that I tend to usually do a lot of them in my studio. That's where I am right now. And I have it's a very staged background. And I spent a lot of time thinking about the colors of it. And I actually had a color originally that was the wrong color. It just absolutely washed me right out. And it was just looked like, flesh tone on flesh tone. It was a terrible choice. And this is where I got this learning from as well, of understanding how to be able to make sure that your colors and your background are things that are going to be enjoyable for your audience to look at. So when you're thinking about your backgrounds, you want to be thinking about things that are not too cluttered. You want to make sure you're not putting yourself in front of a color that is too, makes you blend into the background too much. So again, my original color for my backdrop was this lovely pink. It was actually my brand color pink. But on camera, it looked like flesh tone. So it really I disappeared. It was terrible. So when I went with the heavy blue instead, it gave the ability to pop out so that the backdrop actually just acts as that, instead of it being something that absorbs all the light and absorbs me within it. So don't also place yourself in front of things that have a lot of clutter in the background or a lot of junk. Look at stuff like, are the plugs showing? And I know it sounds really silly, but when you're actually representing your business, these things end up mattering at some point. So if you can see all your electrical plugs in the background, maybe you want to just tilt the camera lens up a little bit. So again, think about what it is that's coming from there. And the most important one to think about with your background as well is making sure that you don't have something growing from the back of your head. So I've done this a few times where I'll film in front of something and it's hanging lights behind me, and it looks like I have this wire that's actually growing out of the top of my head. So make sure that when you're looking at that, you're like, do I look like it's just me that can be seen on camera? Am I bright? Am I centered? Am I square? Am I looking in the lens? Do I have anything weird around me? Just scan yourself before you actually press the live button or the record button, because those things really help you move forward with your confidence when you start doing really good looking lives, and you actually are able to get out there and see, separate yourself out from a lot of other people who are not spending the same amount of time doing things with that level of eye and practice within it. And then the last one I want to talk about is lighting. And lighting, I think, is one of the most misunderstood things when it comes to doing really effective camera. And when you get on camera and you are in a room that's underlit and you don't have proper lighting, people are they're just going to scroll by it. Like, it's hard to watch. It's difficult to watch. It's tiring on the eyes. It doesn't really fill you with like a lot of like happiness or brightness if you're just really looking at stuff that is just poorly lit. It also makes the screen a lot of the time look really funky. So you'll get like weird waves coming across the screen, weird little dots, things like that. And the easy solution is lighting. And you can do things like professional lights, like 100% you can do them. You can do a ring light. You can buy a ring light on Amazon for like $30. They're super inexpensive. But the easiest solution is natural light. And the easiest way to get natural light is stand in front of an open window. Like, if I have one piece of advice that you can think about of how can I actually incorporate something into my lives, into my recordings that's going to help me, stand in front of a window while you're doing them. It is the best lighting you'll ever get. If you have a big patio door, or if you have a great big bay window, or you have something where you get a lot of light that comes in, face your window, hold your camera up, frame yourself, hit record. You're going to look fabulous. It's so well lit. It's excellent lighting. It's better than any ring light you can possibly buy. But natural lighting is like your BFF when it comes to doing live video. So make sure you are thinking about your lighting before you start recording yourself as well. And I know a lot of it sounds like, you're like, wow, Jen, this is rather a bit of a fluffy episode. But it isn't fluffy when you think about the importance of it down the road. So if you think about like the long-term gains of what it means to be able to show up on camera, look confident, look good, and represent your brand, that is actually helping you to make money. So anything that's where you're moving down that path to profit, right? Like you're starting to make money, or you're increasing your revenue, or you're really serious about wanting to tuck in and scale, how you show up also helps to build that reputation for yourself. So if you're showing up one way in your business and you're asking people for something completely different, you have brand misalignment that's going to happen. Instead of taking the time to be like, what do I want to look like on camera? How do I want to show up? What do I want people to think about me when they see me? How do I want to feel about myself when I have to do something that makes me really uncomfortable? Take the time to put it together. Take some time to record it. Take some time to practice. I did so much practicing and pre-recording before I ever did a live again, trying to figure out these tips like I'm giving you, right? Trying to figure out where should I be looking, trying to figure out what's the best lighting, trying to figure out like, how do I actually want to look on camera, trying to figure out how not to show up like I've got like 14 chins, or I've got this weird angle happening at the time while I'm looking at you. All of those things end up mattering in the long run. And if they don't matter to your customer, they might matter to you. And then that's important. If you feel good about yourself, you represent that in your business, and people feel it and they want to do business with you. They want to know you. They build confidence in you. So show up and practice, show up and smile, show up and do some of the things that make you uncomfortable, because in the long run, it's what's going to make you money. So it's not fluff. It's all about building effective brand. That's what it is. So like I said, go grab my free download. You can go to janditchfield.co/get the guide. And I have everything there that talks about, again, shows you, there's photos showing you about what I talked about today of how to frame yourself, where to look, how to get really good lighting going on. There's a script in there as well that you can swipe, you can use and turn it into your own. And it's really helpful of giving you some like key pointers of how to get comfortable getting on camera and starting to show up as the face of your business. And I guarantee when you do and you start to practice it and you start getting more comfortable with it, you're really going to see things change quite quickly in your business. Momentum happens really fast when you start putting your face on camera. So I hope this was helpful. It's just a quickie today. I'll be back next week though, same time, same place. And until then, Spark Plug, keep building something magical.